Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, sir.
You're appearing here for your first appearance at this time for charge of murder in the second degree, and you are represented by Mr. O'Mara. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
A potential major development in the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case. Could the judge be asked to step down because of a conflict of interest? I'm Vinny Politan. This is HLN Special Report. Will the judge presiding over the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case recuse herself? Well, Zimmerman's attorney, Mark O'Mara, says he'll likely file a motion to ask Judge Jessica Rexidler to step down because of a potential conflict of interest. Zimmerman is charged with second-degree murder in the case of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. This is how all this breaks down now. Zimmerman contacted criminal defense attorney Mark Nejame first. He decided not to take the case and recommended Zimmerman's current attorney, Mark O'Mara. Well, it turns out the judge is married to a man who works in Mark Nejame's firm. And just so you know, Nejame is also an HLN legal analyst who's going to be talking a lot about this case. Now, Zimmerman's attorney is also going to try to get him out of jail. A bond hearing is tentatively scheduled for 1 week from today, next Friday. Earlier this week, his attorney, Mark O'Mara, said he wanted Zimmerman to be released to help with his defense. Right now, Zimmerman is in protective custody in jail. Meantime, we're learning more about him from his new attorney. Last night, O'Mara told CNN's Piers Morgan what his first impression of Zimmerman was.
He's afraid and he's stressed and he's tired. That was one thing I will tell you, and you may have seen it on today's TV. He was smaller and younger looking than I thought he was going to be from the one picture that I had seen and everybody else had seen. He stands about 5'8", 185 pounds, I think. So at 6'2", sort of tower over him.
O'Mara says this is a very emotional time for Zimmerman because of the reality of the case is starting to set in since charges have now been filed. O'Mara also gave us a look into what Zimmerman thinks about all this.
He is very concerned about the way he has been portrayed and the way this case has sort of seemingly gotten almost out of control. He doesn't quite understand it. He doesn't understand why people view him in a way that he perceives to be so different than his reality.
According to the prosecution's affidavit of probable cause, Zimmerman profiled and confronted Trayvon. Zimmerman hasn't denied the shooting. He says it was self-defense. Joining me tonight, criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool joins me in studio. And Nancy Grace producer Natisha Lance. She's live in Sanford, Florida. Natisha, let me start with you. And the Honorable Judge Rexidler, will she or won't she step down? What's the word on the ground in Sanford, Florida?
Well, the word on the ground, Vinny, is that this is now up to the attorneys to file paperwork to ask the judge to recuse herself. She says that she will look over that paperwork, she will consider it, and then she will make a decision as to whether or not she will step away from this case. Now, if she does end up doing that, there's 9 other judges who could potentially take over this case, 3 in Seminole County and several others in Brevard County, which is a neighboring county of Seminole County. So they want to have this situation resolved prior to that bond hearing, which will be on Friday. But it will be just a matter of time. We'll have to see what happens this week.
All right, Brian, let's talk about this. This is an unusual situation. Maybe it's not that unusual. I don't know. You know, it's a small legal community down there, very good legal community, but you've got the judge's husband is partners and works with, although not directly, they don't work on the same cases, but same law firm, work together, and Mark Nejame was asked if he wants to be his attorney. He said, nope, no thanks. That's going to be enough for a conflict of interest, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think so, Vinny. And I hope that Mr. O'Mara is not forum shopping and trying to find a possible more favorable
Well, here's the thing. This judge has only been on the bench for like a year,
but
right?
That's my point. I think that he might look at this and say, hey, this is an inexperienced judge. She might not have the courage to throw out all these criminal charges at an immunity hearing because she wants to take the safe route. He's looking for a more seasoned judge who might not be afraid to take an unpopular approach.
And maybe a judge he's appeared in front of many, many times. Natisha, do we know anything about that, about O'Mara and whether or not, you know, he may be a little more friendly with some other judges. When I say friendly, I mean, you know, a little more comfortable with some of the judges, the other judges who could potentially get this case in Seminole County.
We know that he's done cases before in Seminole County. I don't know if he has a friendly relationship with specific judges, but I know that he has plenty of experience in this jurisdiction. So it is a possibility that he may have relationships with some of the other judges who may be more seasoned. As you mentioned, Jessica Rexeidler has only been on the bench for about a year. So that is a possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see what his decision is.
Here's the other part of this, Brian, and this is an interesting part, right? Because O'Mara gets the call from Zimmerman because Nijame puts him on a list of, try these attorneys, right? I think he said maybe a list of 3 or 4 or 5 different attorneys. And so O'Mara, you know, gets the recommendation from the judge's husband's partner. Almost sounds like advantage defense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I, by the way, this is very unusual for an attorney to try to recuse a judge. I mean...
Because if you don't win, all of a sudden, now you're with a judge that knows that you didn't want her hearing the case.
You've already... he's offended the judge, let's face it. She's a human being. This is embarrassing to her, regardless of the integrity of O'Mara's attempt to recuse her. It's not a popular move on his part, and you're right. And I really think he might be doing this for another reason, too. Let's say she doesn't recuse herself. Then she's going to have to be extra careful during this case to make sure that she's not now taking it out on him and his client in the criminal case.
So all of a sudden now, advantage defense with this judge who may have some sort of conflict. And here's the thing, Natisha, I don't think anyone has said anything wrong here. Mark Nijame, HLN legal analyst, but I've known him since last century, Natisha. I know him since last century when I worked down in Orlando. And this is a guy who doesn't do unethical things. This is a guy who does it by the book. He's got too much at risk. I mean, he's got to take care of his family and everything else, his businesses down there. So I guess it's just really the appearance, Natisha, right? The appearance that there's some sort of relationship somewhere in this case?
Right. It is that appearance. And this is a case, Vinny, where emotions have been high. People have been so divided on one side or the other. So I think this is in an effort to be as transparent as they possibly can be. Also, they don't want there to be any kind of issues that will come up in this case. They probably just want to try it once and get it over with and not have anybody from either side have any issues to argue about, saying that there were some improprieties as far as the case was tried in the courtroom.
Hey, Brian, how about this? I mean, from a criminal defense perspective, do you guys and gals like the young judges? The judges who, you know, haven't, you know, been only on the bench for a year, maybe haven't had that super high-profile case, haven't had that murder case. Do you like them because you feel maybe you can control things a little bit in that courtroom? Yeah,
absolutely. I would rather have a judge who's younger, who might not be as seasoned, because he or she is not going to be set in their ways, and they might be more open to arguments you might make, because there's going to be a lot of evidentiary issues in this case as well. There'll be a lot of pretrial motions. There'll be a lot of developments during the trial. You want a judge that has an open mind. Judges I've been before, especially out in federal court in Los Angeles, who've been on the bench 20, 30 years, man, you can't break through it. It's like...
You're bringing back memories when I was a young prosecutor. I remember, like, the older judges, hey, I felt a little bit safer there as a prosecutor. And then the rookie, not the rookie judges, but the judges who first got on the bench seemed a little more open-minded to the things that you criminal defense attorneys do.
Absolutely. You know what else you do? You press the envelope. And you can't press the envelope with a judge who's been there 20, 30 years. I've been in cases where I'll even almost threaten that I'm going to take this up on appeal. Judge, this is an appealable issue. And then maybe you get a younger judge.
Older judge, yeah, go ahead, appeal me.
Yeah, go ahead. I could care less because I'm going to be retired in 5 years. I don't care about my reputation.
Great to see you. Natisha Last, thank you as well.